Ladies, settle in. Because today, we are dissecting an absolute masterpiece of karma. I've seen a lot of relationship breakdowns in my time. I've read thousands of emails from women who spent decades watering dead plants, funding their partner's potential, and shrinking themselves so a man's ego could comfortably fit in the room. But this is the holy grail of taking out the trash. This is about Evelyn Vance, a woman who spent 40 years acting as a human stepping stone for a man who secretly despised her for it. He called her wealth a cage. He romanticized the helpless housekeeper's daughter as his true salvation. So, when the universe hit the reset button, Evelyn did the most devastating thing a woman can possibly do to a man who takes her for granted. She gave him exactly what he asked for. Let's get into the wreckage. The smell of old paper and leather still haunted my senses. Even now, standing under the crisp September sun on the pristine athletic field of St. Jude's Academy, the phantom nausea of my previous life clawed at my throat. 40 years. I had been married to Eric Sterling for 40 years. I had paid for his mother's medical bills when we were teenagers. I had funded his Ivy League education, pulled strings to get him into Harvard Medical School, and leveraged my family's vast retail empire to secure his position as the top neurosurgeon on the East Coast. We had children. We grew old together. I thought we were the perfect partnership. Then he died. And while organizing his study, I found his hidden journals, page after page, decade after decade. The ink dripped with his resentment toward me and his obsessive, undying love for Anna Hayes, the daughter of my family's estate housekeeper. Evelyn's money is a cage, he had written on the day of our 10th anniversary. Her trust fund bought my pride, my future, and my duty. I cannot abandon her, for I owe her my life. But my soul belongs to Anna. Her warmth was the only light in my dark world. In this life, I am a prisoner of gratitude. In the next, I will find Anna, and we will be free. The sheer disgust of realizing that every time he held me, he was wishing I was the housekeeper's daughter had literally stopped my heart. I had died days later, suffocating on the toxicity of a wasted life. But God, or perhaps karma, had a wicked sense of humor. I didn't wake up in the afterlife. I woke up at 17, right back where the nightmare began. Evelyn, look, it's Eric, a high-pitched, bubbly voice shattered my thoughts. I turned to see Anna scurrying up to me. She was tiny, wide-eyed, and perpetually playing the role of the fragile, innocent doe. Me parents had taken pity on her when her father died, allowing her to live on our estate and paying her tuition to St. Jude's just so I could have a companion. For my entire past life, I treated her like a sister. Now, looking at her, I only saw a parasite. He looks so upset, Anna whispered, clasping her hands together as she stared across the courtyard at Eric. He was standing under an oak tree, brooding, radiating the tortured, genius aura that had once blinded me. I'm going to go see what's wrong. Maybe I can help. Before I could say a word, she darted off, practically throwing herself into his personal space. I watched with dead eyes, according to Eric's diary, this exact moment, Anna approaching him under the oak tree, was when she took root in his heart. Her fiery enthusiasm was supposedly the sun that melted his icy exterior. A few minutes later, Anna jogged back to me, her face arranged into a mask of exaggerated distress. Evelyn, it's terrible, she gasped. Eric has to drop out. His mother needs $100,000 for a life-saving surgery. He's going to leave school and work at a garage to pay for it. A genius like him working in a garage. She paused, biting her lower lip, eyeing me carefully. This was the trap. Evelyn, she began, her voice dropping to a pleading whisper. Could you lend me $50,000? I have $50,000 saved up in my account. I want to give it to him for the emergency. It would be a tragedy if he lost his future. I stared at her, my internal monologue sharp with mockery. Her $50,000. That was the allowance my parents had generously deposited into her account over the years. In my past life, hearing this, I had laughed, told her to keep her hard-earned savings, and immediately written Eric a check for the full amount myself. I saved his mother, saved his education, and saved his pride by keeping it a secret between us. Not if my money was a cage, I was keeping the door wide open. I can't, I said, my voice smooth and utterly detached. Anna froze. The innocent doe, eyes snapped wide, a micro-expression of pure confusion flashing across her face. What? Why not? You are a Vance, your family owns. I just donated my entire quarterly trust allowance to the Hurricane Relief Fund in Florida. I lied effortlessly, taking a slow sip from my water bottle. I am completely tapped out, but since you have $50,000, that is a great start. I am sure you can figure out the rest. You are so resourceful, Anna. Her jaw slacked. The panic in her eyes was delicious. She didn't actually want to spend her money. She wanted to use my money while playing the emotional savior. But I had just cornered her. Right, Anna stammered, her face flushing. I'll figure something out. And figure it out she did, but in the most humiliating way possible for Eric. By lunch period, Anna had set up a literal donation box in the center of the Academy's grand dining hall. She had commandeered the microphone, usually reserved for faculty announcements. "Attention, everyone!" Anna's voice echoed off the marble walls. "Our top student, Eric Sterling, is facing a terrible family tragedy. He is too poor to pay for his mother's medical bills and might have to drop out. Please, give whatever spare change you have to save him." The dining hall fell dead silent. I sat at my table, elegantly cutting into a piece of grilled salmon, and watched the destruction of Eric Sterling's ego. Eric was a boy constructed entirely of pride and arrogance. He despised the wealthy kids at St. Jude's, viewing himself as intellectually superior to the trust fund babies. In my past life, I had protected his fragile dignity at all costs. Anna, in her desperate bid to be his public savior, had just stripped him naked in front of the entire school. Eric stood frozen by the entrance of the cafeteria. His face drained of all color, turning a sickly ashen gray. His fists clenched so hard his knuckles turned white, his whole body trembling with a violent, suppressed rage. "Man, that's rough," drawled Chad, a notorious slacker whose father owned a hedge fund. Chad strolled up to the donation box, pulling out a wad of $100 bills he usually used to bribe upperclassmen. He dropped $3,000 into the box, looking over at Eric with dripping pity. "Here you go, Sterling. Buy your mom something nice. Must suck being that broke." Eric looked like he was going to vomit. The pity in Chad's eyes was a physical blow. More students followed, dropping 20s, 50s, and hundreds into the box. "Poor Eric," they whispered. I had no idea he was basically a charity case. Every coin that clinked into that box was a nail in the coffin of his pride. He couldn't refuse the money. His mother would die without it. He was forced to swallow his bile and accept the humiliating charity of the people he hated most. As the crowd dispersed, Anna ran up to Eric, beaming with self-satisfaction, holding the box of cash like a trophy. She reached out to touch his arm. Eric flinched violently, stepping back as if she had burned him. His chest heaved. He didn't look at her with love. He looked at her like a trapped animal. Then his gaze shifted across the room. He locked eyes with me. There was a desperate, pleading question in his stare. Why didn't you save me? Why didn't you do this quietly? Let's pause and frame this masterpiece. In his diary, Eric wrote that Evelyn's money was a cagelet that bought his pride. He resented her for it. But the second Evelyn actually opened the cage door and walked away. What did he do? He looked at her begging for a bailout. This is the ultimate paradox of the fragile male ego. Eric didn't actually hate Evelyn's money. He hated that he needed it. In his past life, Evelyn protected his pride by funding him in secret. She allowed him to cosplay as a self-made, tortured genius. But Anna, sweet, innocent, performative Anna, didn't have Evelyn's resources or her discretion. Anna wanted the public glory of being his savior, and in doing so, she stripped Eric naked in front of the entire school. The absolute audacity of his glare here is what gets me. Why didn't you do this quietly? Because, Eric, she is no longer your silent ATM. Men like Eric love the idea of the helpless, innocent girl until they actually need saving. When the stakes are real, they don't want the damsel in distress. They want the competent, wealthy powerhouse they pretend to resent. Evelyn didn't even have to ruin him. She just removed her safety net and let gravity do the work. Brilliant. I didn't look away. I simply raised my crystal water glass, offered him a faint, mocking toast, and went back to my meal. Just before the bell rang, Anna marched over to my table. The sweet mask was gone, replaced by a defensive, slightly manic gleam in her eyes. We raised enough, she declared, slamming her hands on my table. And Eric is so grateful, he promised to tutor me personally for the SATs every single night. He even said he could squeeze you in, Evelyn. You know, since your grades have been slipping. I slowly wiped my mouth with a linen napkin, looking up at her with eyes as cold as absolute zero. Tell Eric he can keep his charity, I whispered, leaning in just enough to make her breath hitch. And Anna, be careful. You just bought a very angry dog. Make sure he doesn't bite the hand that feeds him. Anna's face paled. But before she could respond, the cafeteria doors slammed open and a furious faculty member stormed in, pointing directly at her. Anna Hayes, to the headmaster's office now. The fallout from Anna's little stunt in the dining hall was swift and merciless. The headmaster had dragged her into his office for an unauthorized solicitation on school grounds, while Anna sobbed her way out of a suspension, playing the card of the naive, grieving girl just trying to help a friend. The damage to Eric's reputation was permanent. He was no longer the brooding, untouchable genius of St. Jude's Academy. He was the charity case, the boy who had to swallow the pity of the trust, fund kids he so deeply despised. And the best part, I didn't have to lift a single finger to make it happen. By Friday afternoon, I was throwing my belongings into a set of leather luggage. I had called my father's assistant that morning and instructed her to prepare the family's downtown penthouse. I was done living in the Academy's shared suites. More specifically, I was done sharing a suite with Anna. Evelyn, what are you doing? Anna stood in the doorway of our shared living space, her eyes darting nervously between my packed bags and the Academy staff waiting to carry them out. Moving, I said, not bothering to look up as I snapped my suitcase shut. I've decided the dorm environment is too distracting for my SAT prep. I'll be commuting from the penthouse for the rest of the year. Anna's face fell, a flicker of genuine panic crossing her features. For years, she had weaponized her proximity to me. Living with me meant she got to eat the gourmet meals my private chef sent over, ride in my chauffeured cars, and casually eavesdrop on my life to gather intel. But what about me? She stammered, stepping forward. We've never been apart. We're like sisters, Evelyn. I won't know what to do without you here." I paused, finally turning to look at her. Sisters. The word tasted like ash in my mouth. In my past life, I had believed that. I had kept her close, funded her lifestyle, and introduced her to high society, only for her to harbor a sick, twisted entitlement to my husband and my life. "We aren't sisters, Anna," I said, my voice eerily calm. "Your mother works for my family. We are roommates by circumstance. I'm sure you'll survive." I stepped past her, leaving her standing frozen in the middle of the room, her mask of sweet innocence cracking to reveal the ugly, boiling resentment underneath. Over the next few months, the shift in dynamics was entirely predictable, yet incredibly satisfying to watch. Without my financial safety net, Eric was forced to take a grueling night shift at a local auto repair shop to supplement the donations and pay off the rest of his mother's medical debt. On top of that, he had to honor his public promise to tutor Anna for the upcoming SATs. In my past life, Eric had tutored me, but I was naturally gifted. I absorbed concepts quickly and never drained his energy. Our study sessions had been quiet, efficient, and, he had foolishly thought, romantic. Anna, however, was a different story. She wasn't particularly bright, but she was fiercely possessive. She demanded Eric's attention constantly, using studying as an excuse to monopolize his time. I would often sit in the plush leather armchairs of the academy library, sipping my iced matcha, and observe them from across the room. Eric looked like a walking corpse. His skin had taken on a sickly, translucent pallor. Dark purple bags hung heavily under his eyes. He would explain a complex calculus problem, his voice tight with exhaustion, only for Anna to giggle, lean into his shoulder, and say, "I just don't get it, Eric. You are so smart. My brain just can't keep up. Tell it to me again." I watched Eric's jaw clench. I watched the muscle feather in his cheek. He looked at her, not with the profound, soul, deep love he had written about in his diary, but with the desperate, suffocating exhaustion of a man drowning in quicksand. "This is your sunshine, Eric," I thought, a cold smile touching my lips. "Drink it in." The pressure cooker finally blew in late November, just weeks before the SATs. I was in the women's restroom, washing my hands, when the door swung open. Anna marched in, her face flushed, her hair slightly unkempt. The toll of trying to keep up with Eric's punishing academic standards was showing. She looked haggard, her usual bubbly facade completely eroded. She locked eyes with me in the mirror. "Stop looking at him," she spat, her voice trembling with venom. I slowly dried my hands with a paper towel, turning to face her. "Excuse me." "I see you, Evelyn," she hissed, taking a step closer. "I see the way you stare at Eric in the library. You're just jealous because he chose to tutor me instead of you. You think just because you're a Vance, you can have whatever you want, but you can't have him. He's mine." I stared at her. The sheer audacity of her delusion was almost impressive. Without breaking eye contact, I picked up my heavy, stainless steel hydro flask from the counter, unscrewed the lid, and casually splashed the ice-cold water directly into her face. Anna shrieked, stumbling backward as the freezing water soaked her collar and dripped down her nose. She gasped for air, her eyes wide with shock. "Are you crazy? Just waking you up," I said, my tone dangerously low. "Listen to me very carefully, Anna. I don't want your greasy, sleep-deprived charity project. You can keep him, but if you ever speak to me like that again, I will make one phone call to my father's accountant, And your tuition payments will stop before you can even dry your shirt. Do you understand? She stood there, shivering, her fists clenched, tears of humiliation welling in her eyes. She didn't say a word. She knew I held all the cards. I dropped the empty flask into my bag and walked out, leaving her to drip on the tiles. But Anna's paranoia wasn't entirely baseless. Later that afternoon, as I was walking down the empty corridor toward the AP Honours wing, having successfully transferred out of all my shared classes with them, a hand shot out and grabbed my wrist. I was yanked into the shadows of an empty alcove. I looked up, my expression instantly hardening. It was Eric. He smelled of cheap motor oil and stale coffee. His eyes were bloodshot, darting nervously down the hallway before locking onto mine. There was a raw, naked desperation in his gaze that I had never seen in my past life. "Evelyn," he breathed, his grip on my wrist tight. "Why are you doing this? Why are you pulling away from me?" I looked down at his hand, then back up to his face, my eyes radiating absolute disgust. "Let go of me," I commanded, my voice slicing through the air like a scalpel. He flinched, loosening his grip, but didn't step back. "You used to look at me differently," he whispered, his voice cracking with a strange, pathetic vulnerability. Before all this happened with my mum, you used to smile at me. Now you look at me like I am nothing. Why did you leave me to deal with her?" The hypocrisy of his words nearly made me laugh out loud. In his diary, he claimed my money was a cage and Anna was his salvation. Now faced with the crushing reality of poverty and Anna's suffocating incompetence, he was begging for the cage. He wanted my easy, quiet support. He wanted the Vance safety net. "Because you are nothing to me, Eric," I said, stepping out of the alcove and into the harsh fluorescent light of the hallway. "And as for Anna, you two deserve each other." I walked away, leaving him standing in the shadows. The Sats were only 3 days away, and looking at the shattered, sleep-deprived ghost of Eric Sterling, I knew exactly how this was going to end. In my past life, the months leading up to the SATs were a blur of agonizing anxiety and chronic insomnia. Eric had convinced me that if we didn't attend a top-tier Ivy League university together, my financial support would mean nothing. He had pushed me relentlessly, treating my brain like a machine, until I developed a nervous tic and required sleeping pills just to function. I had sacrificed my health to match his towering ambition. This time, I slept a blissful 8 hours every single night. Without the dead weight of Eric's expectations and Anna's parasitic presence, I thrived. I ate well, I exercised, and I studied at my own comfortable, highly efficient pace. By the time December rolled around, I was glowing with vitality, my mind sharp and unburdened. The same could not be said for the star-crossed lovers. Rumors spread through the mahogany, paneled halls of St. Jude's like wildfire. Trevor, a boy in my AP calculus class, who unfortunately shared a locker bay with Eric, couldn't wait to spill the details one morning in the student lounge. "It's actually pathetic," Trevor scoffed, tossing his leather satchel onto a leather sofa. "Sterling is working until midnight at that auto shop, and then Anna forces him to stay up until 3 in the morning tutoring her in the library. I walked past them yesterday. She was literally crying over basic algebra, guilt, tripping him about how they have to get into Harvard together, and he looked like he was going to drop dead. I took a slow sip of my Earl Grey tea, hiding a cold, satisfied smile behind the porcelain rim. In my past life, Eric's diary had romanticized Anna's lack of intellect as endearing innocence. He had written that her dependence made him feel like a man, unlike my suffocating independence. No, faced with the visceral reality of dragging a dead weight up a mountain while starving, his manhood was looking awfully fragile. The morning of the SATs was bitterly cold. The testing center, held in the Academy's grand gymnasium, smelled of anxiety sweat and number 2 pencils. I took my seat near the front, adjusting my cashmere sweater, feeling completely at peace. A few rows over, Eric stumbled into his chair. It was a shocking sight. His usually crisp uniform was wrinkled. His hair was greasy, and his skin had a grayish, translucent quality. His hands physically trembled as he set his calculator on the desk. Right behind him sat Anna. Even now, she was leaning forward, whispering frantically into his ear, her voice tight with needy panic. "Eric, promise me you'll double. Check my answers during the break. Promise me, Eric." Eric didn't answer. He just stared blankly ahead, his eyes completely hollow. When the proctor called "Begin," I opened my booklet and went to work. The questions flowed easily, but halfway through the crucial reading comprehension section, a heavy, rhythmic sound echoed through the silent gymnasium. It was snoring. I glanced over my shoulder. Eric Sterling, the supposed genius of St. Jude's, had his head buried in his arms, dead to the world. The proctor had to physically shake him awake. The micro-expression of pure, unadulterated terror that flashed across Eric's face when he realized what had happened was a masterpiece I would cherish forever. Months later, spring arrived, bringing with it the brutal reality of college acceptance letters. I was sitting in the sunlit breakfast nook of my family's penthouse when the email arrived. Yale University, I smiled, forwarded the acceptance letter to my father, and went back to eating my grapefruit. It was a victory, yes, but an expected one. My phone buzzed violently on the marble table. The St. Jude senior group chat was exploding. "Trevor, holy shat. Did anyone else see this? Chad, the mighty have fallen. Lemfo, Trevor, video attachment." I tapped the screen. The video was shaky, clearly filmed covertly by a student at a local internet cafe. On the screen, Eric and Anna were standing in front of a glowing computer monitor. Eric's face was contorted in a mask of absolute fury, the veins in his neck bulging. "Are you happy now?" Eric roared, his voice cracking with a devastation so deep it was almost hard to watch. He violently shoved the keyboard, sending it crashing to the floor. 412. I scored a 412 because I fell asleep. Because you kept me up every single night crying over fractions a middle schooler could solve. I am screaming. A 412 on the SAT. Put it in the Louvre. We need to talk about the manic pixie dream girl fantasy versus reality. In Evelyn's past life, Eric romanticized Anna's lack of intellect. He called her dependence endearing. Why? Because it made him feel like a big, strong man compared to Evelyn's intimidating competence. But here is the brutal, unromantic truth about life. When you are broke, starving, and working the night shift at a greasy auto shop, a woman who cries over basic algebra isn't endearing anymore. She is an anchor dragging you to the bottom of the ocean. Eric wanted to be the hero. Well, congratulations, buddy. You got the damsel. Now you have to carry her. What makes this scene so deliciously satisfying is that Evelyn didn't sabotage his test. She didn't hire someone to drug his coffee. She just let him experience the natural consequences of dating someone who drains your energy instead of matching it. Eric realized too late that the only reason he had the luxury of finding Anna cute in the past life was because Evelyn was paying for the roof over their heads. Without Evelyn's money to cushion the blow, Anna's innocence literally cost him his Ivy League future. Reality comes at you fast when the trust fund dries up. Anna shrank back, her face ghostly pale, tears streaming down her cheeks. "Eric, please. We can still go somewhere together. We can figure it out. Figure what out, Anna? He screamed, his hands tearing at his own hair. Harvard is gone. Scholarships are gone. I am stuck going to the community college across the street from a strip mall because of you. You ruined my life. The video cut off. I locked my phone, a dark, triumphant laugh escaping my lips. In my past life, I had been his stepping stone. In this life, Anna was his anchor, dragging him straight to the bottom of the ocean. The Ivy League illusion was shattered. By late August, the divide between our worlds was finalized. Me parents and I were standing outside the gates of Yale, waiting for the valet to unload my custom luggage, when a battered, rust-eaten sedan sputtered to a stop at the red light intersection nearby. I recognized the occupants instantly. Eric was gripping the steering wheel, wearing a cheap blue mechanic's uniform. Anna sat shotgun, clutching a frayed backpack. They were on their way to the local community college, forced to commute from her mother's cramped, run-down apartment. Anna spotted me, even from a distance. I saw the toxic cocktail of jealousy and humiliation curdle her features. Unable to help herself, she rolled down the manual window and shouted over the traffic, her voice shrill and desperate. "Enjoy it while it lasts. Evelyn, we're just taking a detour. Eric and I will transfer. We'll get our PhDs, and we'll still be better than you." My father frowned, disgusted by the display, but I simply placed a hand on his arm. I took a few steps toward the curb, locking eyes with Anna. "A detour implies you have a map, Anna," I said, my voice carrying clearly over the rumble of the engine. "You don't. You're just lost. Have a nice life." Anna's face crumpled, the last shred of her delusion snapping. She looked like she wanted to scream, but the light turned green. As the car lurched forward, Eric finally turned his head. Our eyes met, but instead of the bitter resentment I expected, his eyes widened in sudden, horrifying recognition. He slammed his foot on the brake, bringing the car to a screeching, violent halt in the middle of the intersection. Horns blared around them. Eric ignored the chaos. He stared at me through the dirty windshield, his mouth moving silently, his hands trembling so violently he could barely hold the wheel. The look in his eyes wasn't the look of an angry 18-year-old boy. It was the look of a 60-year-old man who had just realized he had thrown away a lifetime of empire and luxury for a pile of garbage. He mouthed a single word: wife. The years following my graduation from Yale were a masterclass in absolute control. I didn't waste time on postgraduate soul-searching. I stepped directly into the executive boardroom of the Vance retail empire, cutting dead weight, restructuring our supply chains, and proving to the board that I wasn't just a trust fund heiress. I was an apex predator. I had everything: power, wealth, and peace of mind. The only thing my parents insisted on was a partner to share it with. In my past life, my desperation for love had blinded me to Eric's parasitic nature. This time, I viewed marriage as a corporate merger. I needed an equal. Someone whose spine wasn't bought with my checkbook, which was how I found myself walking into the ultra-exclusive VIP dining room, 888 at the St. Regis, expecting a stiff, boring dinner with a prospective suitor my father had vetted. Instead, I opened the mahogany doors to find a man leaning casually against the floor-to-ceiling windows, a glass of bourbon in his hand. He wore a razor-sharp charcoal suit that screamed Wall Street royalty. When he turned around, his piercing blue eyes locked onto mine, and a slow, devastatingly confident smirk spread across his face. "Julian Pierce," I said, my voice betraying a hint of surprise. The heir to the Pierce Venture Capital Group. He had spent the last decade expanding his family's empire in London and Dubai. He was notoriously ruthless, fiercely private, and entirely out of my league in terms of sheer, unadulterated arrogance. "Hello, Evelyn," Julian purred, setting his glass down. He pulled out my chair with effortless grace. Though I still prefer mud, monster. Or was it Eisencastle tyrant? It's been a while since those summers in the Hamptons. A genuine laugh escaped my lips. The memories of our childhood summer estates flooded back. We had been bitter rivals at age 10, constantly trying to sabotage each other's beach forts. You've grown up, Julian, and thankfully, you've learned to dress yourself, and you've become exactly the terrifying corporate queen I always knew you'd be, he replied, his eyes gleaming with genuine admiration. The chemistry was instant and electric. There was no power imbalance here, no underlying resentment. Just two titans recognizing each other. We were halfway through our appetizers, engaged in a rapid-fire debate about market acquisitions, when the heavy mahogany doors of the VIP suite violently burst open. A foul stench of rancid motor oil, cheap sweat, and desperation flooded the Michelin-starred air. I froze, me fork hovering over my plate. Standing in the doorway, chest heaving, was Eric Sterling. He was wearing a filthy, grease-stained blue mechanic's jumpsuit. His face was smeared with soot, his hair thinning and unkempt. He looked like a feral animal that had crawled out of a sewer. I realized instantly how he had gotten past the concierge. He must have been here servicing the hotel's freight elevators. But it wasn't his pathetic appearance that made the hair on my arms stand up. It was his eyes. They were wide, bloodshot, and completely unhinged. He stared at me not as a former high school classmate, but with a horrifying possessive familiarity. "Evelyn," Eric gasped, stumbling into the room, leaving a trail of dirty footprints on the Persian rug. "Evelyn, I found you. My God, he finally found you." Julian stood up immediately, his imposing frame shielding me slightly. "Who the hell let the maintenance crew in here? Get out before I have you arrested." "Shut up!" Eric screamed, pointing a trembling grease-caked finger at Julian. "You don't know anything. She's my wife. Evelyn is my wife." I didn't flinch. I carefully placed my silver fork down and wiped the corners of my mouth with a linen napkin. "You've lost your mind, Sterling." No, I found it." Eric took a frantic step forward, his voice cracking with hysterical joy. "I remember everything, Evelyn. The accident at the garage today. I hit my head, and it all came back. The journals, the trust fund, Harvard Medical School. I was a top neurosurgeon. We were married for 40 years. My blood ran ice cold, but my face remained an impenetrable mask of aristocratic boredom. He had awakened. The universe had finally given him back his memories of our past life. And yet, looking at him now, I felt no fear, only a profound, suffocating disgust. Anna tricked me. Eric sobbed, dropping to his knees on the carpet, uncaring of how pathetic he looked. "In this life she ruined me. She's stupid, she's greedy, and she dragged me into the gutter. I dropped out of community college because of her. But you were the one who always supported me. I love you, Evelyn. I was just confused before. Please, take me back. We can fix this. You can get me back into school." There it is, I thought. My internal monologue dripping with venom. He didn't love me. He never loved me. He was starving in the gutter, suffocating under the weight of his own choices. And suddenly, the cage of my wealth looked like a palace. He didn't want his wife. He wanted his ATM. "Are you quite finished?" I asked, my voice echoing like ice cracking over a frozen lake. Eric blinked, his desperate smile faltering. The micro-expression of absolute confusion on his face was exquisite. He had expected me to fall into his arms, to validate his delusion. "Evelyn, what are you saying? We belong together. I am a genius. You are a mechanic." I cut him off, my words slicing through his delusion like a scalpel. "You are a high school dropout who couldn't even pass the SATs because you lacked the discipline to manage your own life. You blame Anna. But Anna didn't take the test for you. You failed, Eric, and now you're hallucinating some pathetic sci-fi fantasy where you're a successful surgeon to cope with the fact that you are a complete, undeniable failure." Eric's face drained of color. His lips trembled. The devastating truth of my words shattered the fragile glass house of his ego. "Number," he whispered, clutching his head. "No, I am a Vance. I am supposed to be rich." Julian didn't even bother raising his voice. He simply pressed the discreet silver button under the dining table. Less than 10 seconds later, 4 massive hotel security guards swarmed into the room. "Get this trash out of my sight," Julian ordered coldly, not even looking at Eric anymore. He poured me another glass of wine. "And ensure the hotel manager knows I expect a full refund for this interruption." "Wait, get your hands off me," Eric shrieked, as the guards grabbed him by the collar of his greasy jumpsuit, hauling him up like a sack of garbage. "I am a national treasure. I am a doctor. Evelyn, tell them who I am." "You are a trespasser," I said, picking up my wine glass. I didn't even look at him as he was dragged backward toward the door. "Enjoy the night shift, Sterling." Eric's screams echoed down the marble hallway until the heavy doors slammed shut, cutting off his pathetic existence entirely. Julian turned to me, an eyebrow raised. "Ex-boyfriend. A charity case my family cut off years ago," I replied smoothly, taking a sip of the vintage Bordeaux. "He seems to have developed a rather severe psychological complex about it," Julian chuckled, his eyes dark with a protective intensity. "Remind me to double the security detail around you. I don't share what's mine." Over the next year, Julian proved that he wasn't just talk. We were a force of nature. When he proposed on a private yacht off the Amalfi Coast, handing me a diamond that could rival the crown jewels, he said yes without a single hesitation. Our wedding was set to be the social event of the decade, held at the most exclusive luxury resort in the city. But karma, it seemed, wasn't done playing its twisted games. On the morning of my wedding, he stood by the floor-to-ceiling windows of the bridal suite, wrapped in a silk robe. Across the street from our 5-star resort was a dingy, neon-lit motel with a cheap banquet hall attached to it. I watched as a rusted sedan pulled up to the motel. Eric, looking 10 years older than his actual age, stepped out. He was in a poorly fitted, rented tuxedo. A moment later, Anna emerged, wearing a cheap synthetic lace dress that looked like it had been bought off a clearance rack. They were getting married today, too. Their faces were grim, devoid of any joy. They looked like 2 prisoners walking to the gallows, chained together by their mutual failures and shared poverty. I smiled, turning away from the window to begin my makeup. But as I stepped toward the vanity, I noticed something wrong. The heavy oak door connecting my suite to the private hallway was slightly ajar, and standing in the shadow of my closet, clutching a gleaming heavy bronze statue from the hotel's decor, was a figure in a cheap lace dress. Anna's eyes were bloodshot, completely feral, and locked directly onto me. The silence in the bridal suite was absolute, broken only by the faint, muffled sounds of the string quartet, warming up in the grand ballroom 3 floors below. I didn't scream. I didn't reach for my phone. I simply stood my ground, my posture perfectly straight, my silk robe flowing around me like armor. In my past life, I might have felt pity for the desperate, broken woman standing in my closet. No, He only felt a cold, calculated anticipation. Anna stepped out of the shadows. The synthetic lace of her cheap wedding dress rustled harshly against the plush carpet. She looked horrific. Years of poverty stress and Eric's bitter resentment had aged her prematurely. Her skin was sallow, her eyes sunken into dark, bruised hollows. But it was the manic, feverish light in her eyes that made her dangerous. She gripped the heavy bronze statue so tightly, her knuckles were white. "Why do you always win?" she whispered, her voice a raspy, broken hiss. I crossed my arms, maintaining a steady, unblinking gaze, because I don't rely on other people to build my life for me. "Anna, what are you doing here? Your own tragic little ceremony is across the street." "Shut up," she hissed, taking a step forward. The bronze statue trembled in her hands. "It's not fair. In my dreams, ... In the dreams I've been having lately, I was rich. I was married to Eric, and he was a famous doctor. We lived in a mansion, and you were just the pathetic woman who funded it all. You were supposed to be the stepping stone." Evelyn. I thought. A dark realization settling over me. Eric wasn't the only one who had awakened. The universe, in its infinite cruelty, had granted Anna flashes of the past life too. But instead of realizing the truth, that she had been a kept woman whose husband secretly despised her, she had only remembered the luxury, the money, the status she had stolen from me. And waking up from those dreams to a rusted car, a failing mechanic husband, and a life of squalor had finally snapped her fragile mind. "But it's all wrong now," Anna cried, tears of pure, toxic envy spilling down her cheeks. "Eric hates me. He blames me for ruining his life. He cries in his sleep, begging for you to take him back. You stole my life, Evelyn. You stole my wealth." "I stole nothing," I said, my voice dropping to a dangerous, issy register. "I simply stopped paying for your existence. And look what happened. You crumbled." Anna's face twisted into a mask of pure hatred. "I am not leaving here empty-handed," she snarled, her eyes darting to the velvet jewelry box sitting open on my vanity. Inside rested the Vance family heirloom, a diamond and sapphire necklace worth more than Eric would make in 10 lifetimes. "I'm taking that," Anna said, pointing the statue at me. "And if you try to stop me, I'll smash your perfect face in. I'll ruin your wedding. I'll tell the press that you assaulted me, that you're a monster who abuses the poor." She lunged toward the vanity, her greedy hands reaching for the diamonds. Click, the sound was sharp, metallic, and echoed loudly in the quiet room. Anna froze, her fingers inches from the necklace. The door to the adjoining suite swung open, and Julian stepped in. He wasn't alone. Flanking him were 2 heavily armed private security contractors, and behind them stood the hotel's head of security, holding a digital recording device. Julian's face was a mask of terrifying, lethal calm. He looked at Anna, not like a human being, but like a cockroach that had crawled onto his shoe. Grand larceny, attempted assault, and extortion. Julian listed smoothly, adjusting his platinum cufflinks, all caught on the suite's hidden security cameras, and recorded on audio. "You really are spectacularly stupid, Miss Hayes." Anna dropped the bronze statue. It hit the floor with a heavy, dull thud. The manic energy drained from her body instantly, replaced by a paralyzing, suffocating terror. She looked from the security guards to Julian, and finally to me, Number. "No, wait," she stammered, backing away from the vanity, her hands raised in defense. I was just joking. Evelyn, tell them. We grew up together. We're like sisters." The audacity of her desperation was almost poetic. I walked slowly over to the vanity, picked up the sapphire necklace, and fastened it around my neck. The cool weight of the diamonds felt like victory. "I told you years ago, Anna," I said, turning to face her, my eyes devoid of any mercy. "We are not sisters. You are a parasite, and I am finally exterminating you." I looked at Julian and gave a single, brief nod. "Take her," Julian ordered. The security contractors moved with brutal efficiency. They grabbed Anna by the arms, twisting them behind her back, and slapped a pair of heavy zip ties around her wrists. "No, let me go, Eric! Eric!" Anna shrieked, thrashing wildly against the guards. Her cheap lace dress tore at the shoulder, revealing the ugly, desperate reality of her existence. "Evelyn, please don't do this. I am getting married today. You can't ruin my wedding." "You ruined your own life," I replied coldly. "I am just giving you the bill," as they dragged her screaming and kicking down the private service elevator. Julian walked over to me. He gently touched my shoulder, his eyes scanning my face for any sign of distress. "Are you all right, my queen?" he asked softly. "Never better," I smiled, turning to kiss him, though I suspect the groom across the street is going to be waiting at the altar for a very long time. Across the street, in the dingy fluorescent lit banquet hall of the motel, Eric Sterling stood at the altar. He checked his cheap plastic watch for the 10th time. He was sweating profusely in his rented tuxedo. The handful of guests, mostly Anna's extended family and a few pitying co-workers from the auto shop, were beginning to whisper. An hour passed. Then too, Eric's phone buzzed in his pocket. He pulled it out, his hands shaking. It was a call from the local precinct, Mr. Sterling. The gruff voice of a police sergeant echoed through the receiver. "We have Anna Hayes in custody. She's been charged with felony grand larceny, extortion, and attempted assault at the St. Regis Hotel. Bail has been denied due to the severity of the threats caught on tape. She's looking at 5 to 10 years in a federal penitentiary." Eric dropped the phone. It shattered on the cheap linoleum floor. He stumbled backward, the air leaving his lungs in a ragged gasp. He looked out the grimy window of the motel. Across the street, just in time to see the massive iron gates of the St. Regis open, a fleet of black, armored Maybachs rolled out, heading toward the grand cathedral in the city center. Through the tinted glass of the lead car, he saw a flash of diamonds, a veil of pure white silk, and the radiant, untouchable smile of the woman he had thrown away. Eric collapsed onto his knees in the middle of the empty aisle, burying his face in his hands, and screamed until his throat bled. My wedding to Eric in my past life had been a quiet, suffocating affair. I remembered standing at the altar, looking into his eyes, and seeing nothing but a hollow, grim resignation. He had treated our vows like a prison sentence, a contractual obligation he had to sign to access my family's wealth. My wedding to Julian Pierce was an earthquake. When the heavy oak doors of the cathedral opened, the sheer magnitude of the moment settled over me. I didn't walk down the aisle, I commanded it. In my crisp, custom silk gown. He moved toward a man who looked at me not as a stepping stone, but as an empire he was honored to ally with. When Julian took my hands at the altar, his grip was firm, grounding, and fiercely protective. "I don't promise to save you, Evelyn," Julian whispered. His vows meant only for my ears beneath the soaring vaulted ceilings. "Because you don't need saving. I promise to stand beside you, to burn down anyone who tries to stand in your way, and to love the terrifying, brilliant woman you are until the end of my days." I smiled, a genuine, radiant expression that I hadn't felt in 2 lifetimes. "And I promise to never let you be bored, Julian." We kissed, sealing our partnership, as the applause of the city's most powerful elite washed over us. It was the absolute pinnacle of my existence. 6 months later, the universe delivered the final overdue bill to the parasites I had left behind. I didn't attend Anna's trial. I had no interest in the tedious legal maneuvering, the desperate pleas of her public defender, or the pathetic lies she spun on the stand. I only attended the sentencing. Julian and I sat in the back row of the federal courtroom, flanked by our silent security detail. Anna stood before the judge. She was a ghost of the bubbly, manipulative girl from St. Jude's. The county jail had stripped away her cheap makeup and her delusions. She wore an oversized, drab orange jumpsuit, her hair limp and greasy, her shoulders hunched in perpetual terror. Anna Hayes. The federal judge's voice echoed like thunder across the mahogany-paneled room. You have shown zero remorse for your actions. The evidence clearly demonstrates a calculated, malicious intent to extort, steal, and destroy. This court does not tolerate such predatory behavior. Anna began to shake. She looked back over her shoulder, her sunken eyes scanning the gallery until they landed on the only other person sitting in the front row. Eric. He didn't look back at her. He sat perfectly rigid, his eyes fixed dead ahead on the judge's seal, his face a mask of hollow, broken apathy. Therefore, the judge continued, slamming his gavel down with a sharp, echoing crack, I sentence you to 8 years in a minimum, security federal penitentiary, alongside full financial restitution to the St. Regis Corporation. Anna's knees buckled. No, she shrieked. A raw, animalistic sound that scraped against the quiet of the courtroom. The bailiffs immediately stepped forward, grabbing her by the arms. Eric, please do something. Tell them I was supposed to be rich. Tell them we're supposed to be together. Eric didn't flinch. He didn't even blink as she was dragged, thrashing and sobbing, through the side doors of the courtroom. The heavy steel door clicked shut, severing Anna from society, from her delusions, and from my life, forever. I stood up, smoothing the skirt of my tailored suit, and turned to leave. Julian placed a hand on the small of my back, guiding me toward the exit. But as we stepped out into the bright, marble, floored hallway, a raspy voice called out, Evelyn, please? I stopped. Julian's jaw tightened, his posture instantly shifting into a guarded, lethal stance. But I placed a gentle hand on his arm, signaling him to wait. I turned around. Eric was standing a few feet away. The 6 months since my wedding had ravaged him. He looked 50 years old. The grease from the auto shop seemed permanently etched into the lines of his face. His cheap suit hung loosely on his emaciated frame. He looked at me, his eyes brimming with a pathetic, agonizing sorrow. I remember the day you died, Eric whispered, his voice trembling, tears spilling over his lower lids. In the past life, I remember coming home and finding you. I realized too late, the journal's Anna ... It was all a lie, I told myself, because I was too proud to admit I needed you. I miss our life, Evelyn. I miss my wife. I stared at him. I searched my soul for any lingering trace of anger, any residual pain from the 40 years I had wasted on him. There was nothing, only absolute, freezing indifference. You don't miss your wife, Eric, I said, my voice eerily calm, devoid of any emotion. You miss the checkbook. You miss the safety net. You miss the luxury of pretending you were a tortured genius, while my family's money paved every single step of your golden road. Mic drop. This is the climax of the entire story for me. 6 months after her wedding to a literal billionaire who treats her like an equal, Evelyn runs into Eric at the courthouse. He is a broken, greasy mechanic. He is crying. He is playing. I remember our past life, I miss my wife card, and Evelyn feels nothing. Woman, listen to me, the opposite of love isn't hate. It is apathy. If she had yelled at him, it would mean he still had power over her. But looking at him like he is a smudge on a subway window, that is the ultimate victory. Evelyn surgically dissects his apology and exposes the ugly truth. He didn't miss her. He missed the infrastructure she provided. He missed the lifestyle. Men will often mourn the loss of a good woman and disguise it as heartbreak, when what they are really mourning is the loss of their unpaid life, manager, their therapist, and their financial safety net. He wanted to be a self-made man, and Evelyn simply pointed to his greasy overalls and said, "Look, you are self-made. This is what you build when I am not doing it for you. It's a flawless, zero-calorie execution. No notes." Eric flinched as if I had struck him across the face. "That is not true." "It is." I cut him off smoothly. "You weren't a victim of my wealth. Eric, you were a victim of your own mediocrity. You wanted to be a self-made man. The universe gave you exactly what you asked for. You are entirely self-made now. Look at what you built." I gestured vaguely to his pathetic, trembling form. "You are nothing," I whispered, "and you will die knowing that the only reason you ever mattered was because I allowed it." Eric opened his mouth to speak, but a sob choked him. He fell to his knees right there in the courthouse hallway, burying his face in his hands, weeping with the devastating, crushing weight of a man who realized he had thrown away the winning lottery ticket. Julian stepped forward, looking down at Eric with eyes as cold as a winter ocean. "If you ever approach my wife again," Julian said, his voice dropping to a terrifyingly quiet register, "I will not just ruin you, I will buy the garage you work at, fire you, and ensure you are blacklisted from every menial labor job on the East Coast. You will starve in the gutter. Do we understand each other?" Eric didn't answer. He just kept sobbing into the marble floor. Julian wrapped his arm around my waist, and we walked away. I didn't look back, not even once. 5 years later, the bitter January wind howled outside the rusted, rattling bay doors of a rundown auto repair shop on the outskirts of the city. Eric Sterling, his hands blistered and stained black with permanent grease, wiped his forehead with a dirty rag. His back ached with a chronic, shooting pain that no over-counter medication could dull. He coughed, a wet, rattling sound. As he reached for a discarded newspaper someone had left on a stack of tires, he flipped it over. Staring back at him was the cover of Forbes magazine. The headline read in bold gold lettering, "The Titans of Tomorrow, Evelyn and Julian Pierce announce $5 billion acquisition." Below the text was a high-resolution photograph of me and Julian. We were standing on the balcony of our corporate headquarters, looking out over the city skyline. Julian had his arm securely around me, and I was smiling. A sharp, confident, utterly untouchable smile. Eric stared at the photograph. His thumb brushed over my printed face, leaving a dark smudge of motor oil on the glossy paper. A single tear tracked through the soot on his cheek, dropping onto the concrete floor. He crumpled the magazine, threw it into a trash bin, and crawled back under a rusted pickup truck, disappearing into the dark, freezing shadows of the life he had earned. Miles away, in the penthouse suite overlooking the glittering city, I stood on my balcony, a crystal flute of vintage champagne in my hand. Julian stepped out into the crisp evening air, wrapping his suit jacket around my shoulders and pulling me flush against his chest. "What are you thinking about, Mrs. Pierce?" he murmured, kissing the side of my neck. I looked out at the endless sea of lights, feeling the warm, steady heartbeat of the man who truly loved me and the absolute, unshakable power of the destiny I had rewritten. "Nothing," I smiled. leaning back into his embrace, just enjoying the view. You were a victim of your own mediocrity. Let that line echo in your head for a minute. Here is the bitter pill that this story forces us to swallow. How many of us are currently funding a man's potential? How many of us are shrinking our own brilliance, managing our own success, so we don't bruise the ego of the man sitting next to us? Evelyn spent 40 years playing the silent benefactor to a man who resented her for the very privilege she handed him. He convinced himself he was a captive bird, completely ignoring the fact that she built the golden cage, fed him, and kept the predators away. And the second she opened the door, he flew straight into a ceiling fan. What I love most about Evelyn's rebirth isn't the revenge, it's the withdrawal. She didn't actively plot Eric's downfall. She didn't have to. She simply took her money, her energy, and her time, and redirected it all back into herself. She went to Yale. She took over the family empire. She found a partner in Julian who didn't need her to make him feel like a man, because he already was one. The most toxic myth women are sold is that our love should be unconditional, even when it is being exploited. Evelyn proved that the most powerful thing you can do is attach terms and conditions to your access. So let's take this to the comments. I want to hear your truths. And this is a safe space. Have you ever been the stepping stone? In a relationship, did you ever play down your own success to protect a partner's fragile ego? And more importantly, when you finally walked away and took your energy with you, how fast did their life fall apart? Because let me tell you, the Eric Sterlings of the world always crash when the Evelyns stop doing the heavy lifting. Drop your stories below. I read every single one. And trust me, you are not alone in this. Stay ruthless, ladies. I'll see you in the next one.